Have you been struggling to increase your running cadence and constantly feeling like there must be some secret that no one is telling you? Well, then this is the video for you today. I'm giving you my secrets, although they're not that secret really, but how we can improve our running cadence to run faster and stronger. Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, a medical student and triathlete based in London, and on this channel we talk all things triathlon and running, whether those be product reviews or training tip videos like today. We hear a lot about running cadence on social media nowadays. What is it? What's the optimal range? Why it will make us faster, so on and so on. So I thought I'd make a quick video just to kind of clear it up and give you some real tips that you can actually use to increase your running cadence. So simply put, running cadence is the rate at which we take steps while running, normally expressed as the number of steps per minute. And running cadence is incredibly important because it's one of the key metrics or fundamental parts that dictates how fast we can actually run. The other key metric being stride length. And it's not great to increase stride length, as if we increase our stride length a lot, we're going to be heel striking, and that can lead to damaging our heel and making our shin slightly weak and leading to medial tibial stress syndrome. And this is obviously something that we want to avoid, because the more running injuries we have, the less consistent we're going to be with running and the less progress we're going to make overall, and we won't be running, which is the worst thing because we all love running, right? So if we can't increase our stride length beyond a certain point without ruining our biomechanics and making us more susceptible to injury, we then have to look at increasing our running cadence to make us go faster. I think that's why we hear so much about it, because it is almost a quick hack to get faster when it comes to running. And it's also really easy to see the difference in cadence between a newer runner and a more experienced runner. If we compare someone who's just doing their couch to 5k to someone like Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the rate of turnover of their legs and their cadence is incredibly different. Even if you compared my cadence to a top level runner, it's still massively different. The speed at which you can turn over your legs to create massive amount of forward momentum and running speed really is quite hard to achieve, and it takes a lot of time. And it's one of the biggest things that separates the newbies or the amateurs from the pros. So, is there an optimal running cadence that everyone should run at? Well, not quite. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. It can really depend on your height, your leg length, and your musculature and your running style. It could depend on loads of things, is what I'm trying to say. But generally speaking, and now consult a coach if you're having any problems with repeated injuries, but generally speaking, the higher your running cadence, likely the more beneficial it's going to be for your running biomechanics and your speed. We very often hear this idea of running at or just over 180 steps per minute, and I think that's a great goal, but that is incredibly high and it might not be optimal for everyone. But what I definitely can say is, if we took my running cadence, which is around 165 steps per minute, if I increase that to 170 or 175, that will be a massive benefit. And so by taking it in small steps and increasing your running cadence gradually, I think you're much more likely to find what is optimal for you, and that might be different from someone else. So don't beat yourself up if you never make it to the mythical 180 steps per minute mark. But what can we actually do to increase our running cadence? Well, I've got a few methods that I think will really help you, especially if you've been struggling. Just to interrupt the video, if you have found this useful at any point, please consider subscribing, as it really helps out the channel. The first one is one that I use really regularly, and I think it's one of the easiest ways to help, and that's running with a metronome. For those of you who don't know, a metronome is something that's normally used in music, but it very simply makes a ticking or a clicking sound however frequently you set it to. So you could set it theoretically to your target cadence, although I wouldn't recommend immediately going for something like 180, but maybe 4 or 5 steps per minute higher than your current natural running cadence, and try to make sure that your feet are landing on the ticks or on the clicks. The great thing about this method is that you can use it for pretty much any of your runs, meaning that improving your cadence, you're not just doing it once a week, you're doing it all the time, meaning it's much more likely to be a long-standing change rather than a temporary one. The next tip is to include running strides into more of your daily runs. For those of you who don't know, strides are short bursts, 15 or 20 meters worth of fast running where you're working on increasing that turnover and moving your body in a more efficient way. It's kind of running fast but with really good form. And I think that can be really beneficial because one of the things you work on, like I said, is increasing your cadence. And so if we're doing that regularly, again, we're likely to make quite a big impact. Next up, I think going to the track and working out, especially if you can do this with your local running club, is one of the best ways to improve your cadence. Generally, when we're going to the track, we're doing shorter, higher paced intervals, which you tend to have a faster cadence than your daily or easy running pace regardless. And so by doing that more frequently, we're definitely going to be increasing our natural running cadence. And I think by going there with your local running club or with friends who have a higher cadence than you can be really beneficial as well. Something that I love to do is position myself behind a slightly faster runner who has a slightly higher cadence than me and try and match that runner's cadence for as long as I can. Not only does this increase my cadence, but it also helps to take away from the burning sensation in my legs at the end of that 2.5 minute interval. My penultimate tip is to focus on our arms rather than our legs. We obviously spend a load of time focusing on our legs, but if we can focus on our arms and make sure we're driving back our elbows during our arm swim and making sure that we're really doing that and we can slightly increase the pace at which we move our arms, our legs will naturally move slightly faster as well. I think it's really easy to let your arms move lazily through the arm swing, but if we really drive them and we're driving our legs, we can increase our cadence a little bit more than what we might normally be doing. And lastly is downhill running, and this one's pretty self-explanatory. When we run downhill, we need to have quite a fast cadence so that we can get our legs back underneath our torso so we don't fall over. Now, there's no really good way to just run downhills, otherwise I assure you I would only ever run downhills. But if we can try and go to hillier routes where we live for our medium and long runs and incorporate some of those downhills where we really focus on our cadence, that can be a really good way. Or instead of walking back down the hill for our hill reps, we jog back down and focus on a slightly increased turnover than we normally would, is another way to incorporate this little secret into increasing our running cadence. But that's it for this video. If you've got another way of increasing your running cadence, then leave it down below in the comments and maybe you can help me and the rest of the viewers out. On screen now, I'm going to leave a link to my running hills video, which I think is one of the other best ways to improve your running speed as we improve our leg strength and cadence in that. But with that said, thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.